begin with this statement. We live in interesting times. How many of you agree with this general feeling? Show of hands in the room. It's a lot of hands in the room. Okay, how many of you feel these times are perhaps a little too interesting? Show of hands. Okay, I see also a lot of hands going up. Well, I'm sorry to say that for these times, I have no answers, only questions, and that is my job. That is my job as a teacher, as a researcher, is not necessarily to find the answers. In fact, I think a really good question is the one that is continually regenerative. So I have a lot of questions. But I'm going to tell you a little bit, just a little background, a little more background about myself. I deal day in, day out with technology at Stanford. I teach it, I research the stuff, mostly software, mostly creating tools for humans to creatively express themselves. Audio, visual, interactive, social. Including the aforementioned Chuck music programming language. It's an open source programming language you can download and start making sound by writing code in minutes, if you like. chuck.stanford.edu. Yes, this is the Stanford Laptop Orchestra. Also direct the Stanford VR Design Lab. We're asking questions such as, how do we make music and make music together in virtual reality? To the big questions like, what is real? Is this real? How many of you are like completely certain this is real? Okay, for the record, nobody's raising their hand. We started a recently Stanford VR orchestra. The laptop orchestra is called Slorp. The VR orchestra is called Svork. We have like just awful names for everything we do. We work really hard at this. This is basically it's an ensemble of humans who are in a shared VR space where the performers are performing and the audience is kind of just flying through the space and listening. They're basically going to a concert in a shared space. We worked really hard on this. It took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of funding. We wrote papers on this. In the end, I think one of our biggest findings is that we're not sure that this is necessarily a good idea. In fact, I would say this is probably my favorite research, actually. Not necessarily this, but my favorite research is always research that has the seed of doubt. It's the research that tries to be earnest in what it does, but also earnest in what it's not sure whether it should even be done. Right? And I think that's kind of the undertone of how I do research in my research group. And then I create things like Ocarina, which I can try to play a little bit of it right here. It's on my phone. You play it by blowing into the phone. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
For example, this is Ocarina in gameplay mode. It's audio, it's visual, it's interactive. It's a game. The quadruplets falling down the middle of the screen is prompting you how to play the next note. But in Ocarina, nothing is pre-recorded. All the sounds is generated live, actually using the aforementioned Chuck programming language. So every time you play a song, it's a little different than the last time you played that song, which means you actually have a lot of control. You're not trying to get back to some correct version of the recording, because there's no recording. It means there's actually a degree of open expression, right? But also at the same time, you could ask why was Ocarina designed? I'm a designer, so it's a good, I also have to tell my students, always ask why. Why was this designed? And here I have a confession to make. My students and I tend to make things that nobody quite asked for, and that solves no problems that exist. And I'm telling you this as an engineer, which is a strange, I admit, thing for an engineer to admit, but I think that's me and my students in many ways, for better and for worse. And also in the same app, you can listen to other people blow into their phones around the world in a global visualization. There's another side of me, which is just kind of the opposite of technology, which is going into the great outdoors. This is something that not that I necessarily wanted to do. This is something that my wife wanted to do once upon a time, but I've come to appreciate the journey after she kind of forced me to go on a couple of camping trips and ultimately the John Muir Trail.
Wow.
Yeah, this is like, here, let me see if I can find a video of it for you. Yeah, this is 250 miles. in the High Sierra. On the Devil's Road, because it's kind of from my perspective, it was the Devil's Road. You're not going up a mountain, you're going down a mountain.
And now for a taste of things to come.
Giant fucking piles of rocks. It's a very honest video. If you want, you can go to YouTube and search for On the Devil's Road, John Muir Trail. I'm going to see two noobs make their way through the wilderness. And yeah, that's a kind of a couple of slices of my life, which I think is at the center of this thing that we call design, which to me is an act of tool building. Right? And so I did write the aforementioned book, Art of Design, to ask the question, what if we built our tools more like we try to make our art? What would the world look like then? And because I recognize that is not necessarily the way we actually make our technology today. We kind of make it for things like efficiency, productivity, optimization. But I don't know if those are the only things we actually want from our lives, from ourselves. Right? And so Artful Design explored this question, and it did so in a comic book form because, well, I guess nobody asked for that either. I keep doing things that nobody quite asked for. But the questions that this book tried to address include what is the nature of design and who designs, and the short answer to that is we all do. Humans, this is what we do. Anytime we try to shape our environment with an outcome in mind, we could call that design. And by that definition, we're all designers. And if that is design, the next question might be, what does it mean to design well? And is good design the same thing as not bad design? The book firmly says, no, it's not sufficient. Good design has to transcend not bad design. It's something completely different because this is a question not only of did you check the boxes, but it's a question of quality. Is it good? And what does good even mean, and to whom is it good? Then the third question is, in this age of so much technology and so much human discord, what does it mean to design ethically? So these are the lenses I want to make, and the book begins and ends with these 5 words: what we make makes us. The things we do now, the technology we shape and deploy and we use and put into our lives is going to come back like a boomerang at some point and to shape us as individuals, as communities, and maybe as societies. And with this lens, let's talk some AI, and specifically through this course I've been teaching at Stanford called Music and Artificial Intelligence. But this talk is really not about music, even though it has quite a bit of music in it, but it's not about music, but it's more about, again, what do we want from AI? I teach this course as a critical making course, meaning we're going to make stuff, because we're engineers. Critical making means we're also going to do some critical thinking, a lot of it, in fact, at every turn. We're going to ask why. Was this a good idea? Should we be doing this? For whom are we doing this? Who benefits? Who does not? Who gets left behind? And is this accord with, I don't know, the things that we would value, the things that we want from our lives? That's critical making. Lecture 1 questions the existence of this course, actually. Is this even a good idea? Should I be teaching this course? Also, just because we're in a course called Music and AI doesn't mean we're going to automatically assume that applying AI to the arts is necessarily always a good idea. So I'm going to teach you, I say, about AI and music, but we're not going to assume that that's just the way we're going to do things. We must question this at every turn. Students came from different backgrounds, but soon we realized we were united by one thing that we all possessed, which was this thing. AI FOMO. How many people in the room got AI FOMO? Safe space. Feel free to raise your hand. Yeah, the fear of missing out on AI, the fear that if you're not using AI, you might be left behind. Yeah, that's AI FOMO. I got it too. In fact, I started this course because I had a lot of AI FOMO. I was like, I'm the computer scientist here. I should be in computer music at Carmen. I should be teaching a computer music class on AI. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? I got to do this. So that's AI FOMO. And on this note, and especially on the occasion of what this is, I thought I'd do a little 2026 drive through Silicon Valley. For most of you who are, I think, from the area, and for those who are not from the area, If you drive up Highway 101 between San Jose and San Francisco, you'll see a lot of billboards. What's on those billboards? A lot of AI. Here's some AI. There's some AI. There's a lot of AI here. Agents that improve themselves. One-stop ship. Are your APIs ready for AI agents? This one is an AI tool to tell what's AI generated and what's not AI generated. This is not an AI. This is AI. This is Airbnb cashing in on the number of AI billboards. They thought they'd get in on the action to promote some designer housing. Do you have AI? And then we're back to just actual AI billboards. Some of them promising vaguely super intelligence. Right outside at Redwood City, in fact, this one, day and night, super intelligence. I didn't know what about super intelligence, what super intelligence exactly is, but here we go. It's here, I suppose. And then this one, AI will replace you unless you are using AI. How do you feel about this? This feels vaguely threatening to me. Like it's like you better do this. And then you're looking at who's actually running these commercials. This is the hype. This is how AI FOMO comes about, by the way, which I think is the highest in places where there's a lot of AI. It's very weird. You fear of missing out on AI in places where there's a lot of AI. Silicon Valley, we got a lot of AI here, and this AI FOMO, I think, is the highest I've ever seen anywhere in the world. And it's all because we've been hyping ourselves with this kind of thing, this threat that you better get on board or you're going to be left behind. But it's something that I think we need to challenge and question. This is something to be critical about. Because I think one question we could ask is, are these AI tools, these AI systems created and deployed for our well-being? What do you guys feel about this one? Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Copilot, whatever China's working on. How many people are like, yeah, these things are here for my flourishing? How many people question this? Good. I think we should question this. And then there's this. March. Use of AI tools to enable attacks in Iran heralds a new era of bombing quicker than, quote, the speed of thought. Is that a good idea, to be bombing quicker than the speed of thought? Experts have said amidst fears human decision makers could be silent. Anthropic's AI model Claude was reported use by the U.S. military in the barrage of strikes as technology, quote, shortens the kill chain, meaning the process of target identification through to legal approval and strike launch. I don't know, I think as a species we've done some really dumb things, people. This might be on my personal top 3 list, dumbest things maybe we've ever done to ourselves. This is, make no mistake, I think this is reason to be worried. And I don't know how much of our current Department of Defense, which has been renamed also to the Department of War, I don't know how much do they understand about the capabilities and limitations of these systems. We should probably question that. Also, some of my class introduced this word, this German word. And how many people speak German in the room? Any German speakers? Can you pronounce this, if you would, and tell us what it means literally?
Weltschmerz means having pain over the world.
Okay, Weltschmerz. Sorry for my pronunciation. But it literally means world pain. But being a German word, it could actually have like a whole paragraph worth of meanings. So, Weltschmerz is a German word for the feeling of melancholy and sadness caused by the state of the world and the realization that reality can never live up to one's idealized expectations. It involves a sense of weariness or grief from the awareness of suffering and evil, often combined with the feeling of powerlessness to effect change, somewhat ironically from the Google AI overview. Any y'all ever felt this word? If you're German, I guess you felt this. Someone had to invent this word. It's a strange thing. I teach this in week 1 of my music and AI class because I think technology needs to be thought of, deployed, used, invented, and critiqued really through the lens of just, well, humans, the human condition. I don't know about you, but Weltschmerz is like, yeah, this is very familiar. In fact, the older I get, the more I feel this. And I feel this also on the behalf of other humans. You know, my grandmother, who you saw a picture at the beginning, she always says to me, it's the common people who suffers the most. Don't you forget that. and I've not forgotten that. That's Weltschmerz. Right? And I say when we do technology, let's acknowledge let's acknowledge that there is suffering in the world, in ourselves. So in any case, questions greater than answers. What do we really want from AI? I think this question is a little different through these lenses. Let me show you some of the things my students have done, maybe in response to this. One of the assignments is called Wekinator World. In this programming etude, I say, students, you are to use Wekinator, which is an interactive machine learning framework, to create 3 interactive AI utilities or toys in your everyday life. These don't have to be useful. In fact, whimsical is good, absurd is good, playful is wonderful. Okay, this is interactive AI, not generative AI. 2, I make an emphasis on play because I'm one of these teachers who believe that the best way to learn about something is not to beeline for a solution that solves a problem or makes something like more optimized or whatever, but rather to play, to explore without needing to walk away with a productive outcome. And when you play, I believe, that's when you really probe for things, capabilities, and limitations, both of which are incredibly important with any technology, especially perhaps the limitations. So my students, they use this, and by the way, Wekinator is the work of Dr. Rebecca Fiebrink, who's one of the world's experts at the intersection of machine learning, AI, human-computer interaction, and music. With Wekinator, you can do things like this. This is wave up. It just waves back at you. That's all it does. That's all it does. This is trained in less than a minute. It took far longer to conceptualize this and actually build this little cardboard robot with the system to actually detect hand skeletal tracking, right? And it was trained in under a minute. This does not need a data center. This needs under a minute on like any laptop you can possibly find today. And you show some examples of what's waving, what's not waving. There you go. All right. So my students get a hold of this, and we get things like this. This is a thing called auto-riz. What is auto-riz, you ask? It's a classifier. Do you got Riz? Do you got charisma? If you do, you get this. I tell my students you got to deploy this, all right? So he's deploying this right now in this stress test. Different users. If you're like, this is really dumb. Yes, it is. This is all it does. But it's also something that I think, no matter how advanced or current, no amount of data centers can actually do this right now. Because this is still interactive AI, humans in the loop. My student wrote, I really enjoyed this assignment. I think it's easy to adopt this toxic capitalistic mindset that everything you do or make has to be productive or for something. But when we follow that dogma, we forget to make beautiful things just because they're beautiful, do funny things just because they're funny, or make stupid projects just because they're stupid. There's so much beauty in doing things just because. It was nice to take a pause on life and make something just for the sake of making it, and for a grade, but that's more of an afterthought. Yeah, as a teacher, I won temporarily that day. It's like, yes, when your students just make things because they are curious. I think that is education, to me at least. Here's from another student. This is hand to voice. It's kind of a playable instrument, this one. Articulation, open and closing, the angle of the hand, map to pitch. This really is like a kind of a distant spiritual successor to ocarina and how useless this is. But I think it's interesting. It's playful. What do we learn? My students and I, well, in class we learn that learning about AI it's also learning about the contexts, right? So, my students and I had a running commentary not just on music and AI, but also on their own education, especially regarding AI. And we realized that, AI and education, it's about so much more than just whatever this term intelligence is, which you could define as, do you possess the means to achieve what you desire? Basically, do you got the tools to get what you want? If you do, then you're intelligent. That's the working definition. Right? We thought this actually is very profoundly different than it's something that's related, which I think something we call wisdom. The capacity to critically evaluate those desires in the first place, and to evaluate the means you would have to achieve those desires. Right? And that's the difference, we think, between intelligence and wisdom. And intelligence is one of these things, yeah, you could outsource if you wanted to. You can also do it yourself. You can also outsource it to another person, to a machine, to a tool, to something else. But wisdom feels like one of these things that can only come from you. Maybe that's the difference. But I have no answers, only questions. We live in interesting times. My times got extra interesting about 2.5 years ago. My daughter has started learning about AI already. But you know, every day I look at her, I'm filled with a lot of emotion. I think there's got to be, I don't know how many German words it takes to describe the emotion I have. I see her being imaginative. I see her being curious. I see her exploring. I see her learning to express herself. And these are such good things. Not just for kids, but for like all of us throughout life. But then there's another side of me that just worries. I look at the future and I'm like, I have no idea what kind of a world my daughter's going to be growing up in. And that second part troubles me profoundly. Because I feel like whatever world she's going to be growing up in, it's a world that I can barely imagine right now. And you know what I feel? Well, I'm back to Weltschmerz. And thinking about her and her education, I think we're currently at a crisis point regarding AI. Studies like this are coming out pretty regularly, but I just don't know how much we're listening to them. AI assistance reduces persistence and hurts independent performance. This is joining from Carnegie Mellon, Oxford, MIT, and UCLA. I'll read you the implications of the entire study. The rapid rise of AI chatbots promises immediate and effective help with reasoning-intensive tasks, such as studying, writing, coding, and brainstorming. But what happens to the user's own abilities when the AI is not available? In a series of large-scale human experiments involving arithmetic and reading comprehension, we find that AI assistance improves immediate performance, but it comes at a heavy cognitive cost. After just 10 minutes of AI-assisted problem-solving, people who lost access to the AI performed worse and gave up more frequently than those who never used it. These findings raise urgent questions about the cumulative effect of daily AI use on human persistence and reasoning. We caution that if such effects accumulate and sustain AI use, current AI systems optimized only for short-term helpfulness risk eroding the very human capabilities they're meant to support. This is not an isolated data point. This is just part of a mounting, growing body of evidence on AI, and especially not AI in general, but the AI tools specifically that's being deployed in our world. 90% of college students in the US used AI academically last year. That number has only gone up in this year. I think I will sum up that study in basically this. As AI gets smarter, AI users get dumber. That's it. Literally, it's that. Right? These tools keep getting smarter, but then that just means we don't have to be so smart. Do you want to live in a world that's that way? Do you want to be that way? People will come to love their depression, to adore the technologies that undo their capacities to think. Huxley, he wrote a little book called Brave New World. Might have been a very important book about the dystopian future. Are we here yet? What goggles do we need to put on to actually see that this might just be happening in front of our eyes? Because I think the danger isn't just outsourcing our thinking. It's also outsourcing how we are to feel and to outsource our judgment. That's the danger right now. And I don't know, do you know where to draw the line? I don't. Between trying to do a thing that makes me more productive while trying to avert the dangers that so easily comes at every turn with using a tool that's literally designed to do my thinking for me. How am I to compass that? So for now, I told my students at the end of my AI class, I've gone cold turkey on AI for now. I'll reassess maybe in 3 months. Because I got muscles that I don't want to atrophy. I like coding, I like writing music. I need to keep doing these things because they make me me. I don't want to question, did I do that? And for this, I will suffer for it. I tell my students, I'd rather you make something that's quote unquote worse. Do it more slowly, or not do it at all because you don't got the time. And then to do a thing that you don't know if it's even yours. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm really having a crisis of faith here. I went to grad school thinking I was going to do generative AI for music. Someone along the way asked me, what's the point? And I thought that was a really great question. I've never been able to answer that question satisfactorily to me. So I didn't do generative AI for music. This is 25 years ago. In grad school at Princeton, I made a tool that was to become the Chuck programming language. I said, I'm going to make a tool that people can learn. Maybe people can figure that question out for themselves. But I'm here I'm a tool builder. I'm a designer. But also, I like to say maybe it's okay to be in crisis. Because I'd rather be in crisis than to be complacent. I'll end with some what ifs. What if the whole point of music, of art, is that we make it? Is that we make it? Saying the process matters. I don't know about you, but I worry about living in a world that goes from about trying to find good to things a world that's just good enough. That's enough to make somebody a lot of money. I worry about living in a world that we increasingly get more things that are serviceable, often, but sublime never. I worry about entering a new age of generic. Second question, what if, and this is an education question, what if being confused and frustrated is an essential part of learning anything? You remove the friction from learning, are you still learning? Studies actually show no. This is a lot of evidence to this as well. If you remove the friction, people who actually get the stuff done with AI could not explain why they did it or how it works. Do we need to know how it works still? These are the questions. Perhaps it's time to go back to the very philosophical foundations of why get an education. Why are we here? What are we trying to do with an education? John Cage, the composer, said in the 60s, what we need is a computer that is not labor-saving, but which increases the work for us to do. What in the world is he talking about? Oh my goodness, this is so contrarian to everything we I think come to know about Silicon Valley at this time. I think he's talking about a thing that we might call virtuous labor. It's work that we find meaning in doing, like practicing an instrument, learning to cook for ourselves. These things are hard and not pleasant most of the time, but when you get there, it's like climbing a mountain. It's like my hiking. Most of the time it's not pleasant. But man, when you get to the top of that mountain, it feels so good. It's sublime. And you'll be like, I wouldn't want to be without this or the process that got me here. In fact, I wonder what it means to actually build tools that ask more of us rather than asking less of us. That seems to be the trend in technology right now. It's like, how can we make technology that expects less, asks less of all of you? And what does it mean to productively make tools that say, this is going to be good for you if we ask more of you? It's like a good movie that makes you think and feel. Those are usually the ones that ask the most of you. Good movies ask more, not less. Same with any art. Third, what if all things worthwhile are mountains to climb? The reverse, by the way, I would say is not necessarily true. Not all mountains to climb are worthwhile. Just because it's hard don't mean you gotta do it. But I feel like all the things that we're like, that's worthwhile, might just actually be a struggle. I don't know, that's just how we work. And maybe that's why this thing was something I will never forget. My mind goes back to those mountains all the time. The 2%, the 90% suffering I still sort of remember, but the 2% sublime I will never forget. And lastly, I tell my students this. I think whatever you do, how much AI you use or don't use, and whatever you do to navigate these times, I say don't forget this. Don't forget the you in all of this. It's not about what you can do. No, it's actually about you. How do you feel at the end of the day? How do you see yourself? And this is the thing that makes you more you. Are you doing something that makes you more you? And what are those things that make you more you? These are the questions. Again, no answers, only questions. What do we really want? We live in interesting times. This is you feel like that sounds like that so-called Confucian curse. Maybe I live in interesting times. I grew up in China. I don't know if Confucius ever said such a thing. But you know what? In the West, we're going to go with it. By the way, this is part one of like a 3-part curse. Part one is, may you live in interesting times. Part two is, may you attract the attention of powerful people. Think about that one. Especially like growing up in China. Third one, which I think is one that's really incredibly relevant for this talk, is simply, may you find what you're looking for. Perhaps the greatest danger to any technology, maybe especially AI, but any technology, is not necessarily the unintended consequences. Those are bad. But we see those. I think the greater danger, perhaps, is that the technology, the tools, work exactly as intended by the designers. And they find their way into our lives, into our communities, into our society in a way that when we realize, I don't know if this is what we want, it becomes entrenched and it becomes impossible to figure out what a good version of it might have looked like. We're moving so fast with AI right now that we might just miss out the best parts of what AI could be. I'm not saying no AI, I'm saying maybe it's time to slow down. Slow down. Before we introduce AI into schools, into everything, let's figure out some evidence that it can be good and the ways it can be good. Rather than saying, here it is, AI first, figure it out, people. I don't think that's what we should be doing. So I'm advocating, maybe off of this so-called Confucian curse, part 3, be careful what we wish for. You might get it exactly as wished for, but then it might be a little too late to unwish that. What I really want in these days of profound uncertainty, well, in these days of profound uncertainty about the future, I look at my daughter who is 2, and every fiber of my person tells me this. As she grows, I would want her to learn, to value, and even embrace the difficulty, confusion, and frustration that come with learning and that reside inherent in the craft of creatively expressing oneself, whatever form that may take, and for her to come to know the sublime joy hidden in the process, with or without AI. Now that I put this out there, as a parent, I'm pretty sure my daughter's going to be like the exact opposite. But this is still what I earnestly hope for. I hope that she can have this reference. And that's what it is. It's a reference. I think to figure out whether AI is good for what you want to do, you can't just use AI and be done with it. You got to also do the thing without AI. You need a reference to know when and which is the right thing for the task at hand. So I teach a lot of things at Stanford: engineering, music, interaction design, instrument design, VR, audiovisual design, interactive AI. But I think at the end of the day, I think the thing I'm trying to instill in my students and myself at this time is this. It's the spark of rebellion. If you have this, then you might just have something at the beginning of a tool for wisdom, which for yourself you can begin to question. So what we make makes us. And if you're interested, I have this rather provocatively titled article, Gen AI is the least imaginative use of AI imaginable, from early 2025, but it seems like hundreds of years ago in like AI time. I think this is still relevant, it's all I feel. And with this, I want to thank you all so much.